Hello, everyone. I know it's been a long time again since my last devlog. It's literally been like 2 weeks. But I wanted to go ahead and touch on some new features that I've added because there's quite a few, and also a lot of bug fixes that I did and some stuff that I kind of had to overcome. So first things first, let's go ahead and show you the game. So if I label that there, you will see that I have changed the art style entirely on the game. I've gone with something a little more cutesy. I've also done a huge overhaul on the trees and lighting and just everything to try to keep more thematically with the same color palette. We've also increased performance substantially. This is in the editor. And it's running 100 and something FPS, I think, maybe. Yeah, 140 FPS. And that's with well over 60,000 trees and entities all running at once. So lots of optimizations were done there. There was a huge issue that I fixed that I will show you. Let me click on this here. If I enable gizmos and click on this game map. You'll notice that on the collision map, on the previous video that I did, a lot of these positions were actually offset slightly to the left. So I had an issue to where when the unit would move or attempt to move to the left of the tree, they would just not do it because they didn't think that there was a possible walkable area there. And so it really screwed up a lot of the pathfinding. So I fixed that. I also removed unnecessary nodes in pathfinding. Oh, also you can see that I have a new UI, which we will get into. Let me go ahead and disable gizmos. So I have a new UI that I've added. Down here you can see some buttons, but we'll get into those. I've also, like I said, made pathfinding a little better. So now when moving in a straight line, the unit, instead of moving, straight and then going from point to point, now it's just point A to point B when moving in a straight line. It removes all unnecessary points in between, so it's reduced a lot of the calculations as far as like movement calculations go. So now we just have one calculation from one point to another, and the same for diagonal. The only time it changes is when you have a change like that, so moving vertical then straight. So say if I move up here, you can see that the unit moves clearly around, which before they would move through the trees. I also had an issue before in the old one where if I moved a unit to a spot, sometimes they would go up in a direction and then down. So that's been repaired now. It was an issue I had with some of my pathfinding. Essentially, the position I was calculating for their end position was offset slightly, and so it was causing the unit to be confused on which way to go. So sometimes they would even pass up the point and then head back. So I got that repaired. As you can see, the light on the for the global light is changing over time. I went ahead and added a day-night system, which I can show you. Go in here and enable the debug. You can see that we're calculating the time, and we're going to start out on day 1, obviously. But once this hits 1, it should be nighttime, and we'll go from there. Let's see. Yeah, I'll go ahead and leave that on. So another thing that I added is when you click on the unit, we get this bar down here that pops up that has some different stuff. So unit control, which I've added a tooltip as well for that, as well as an inventory, which is kind of nice. So if I open this up, you'll see that I have some items in here, which items is another thing I added recently as well. And say I wanted to equip it, I can double click to equip and double click to unequip. I'm going to go ahead and show you one thing that's pretty cool. So now I can right click on a resource. You'll see when I hover it, it actually shows what it drops. And the second item is actually what drops if you don't have a tool equipped. So if I hover over this bush, for example, obviously it doesn't require any tools to pick berries from a bush, so it just drops one thing. But if I hover over this tree and then right click, you'll see that the unit starts a job for collecting. He'll go over, punch the tree a couple times. If we look in his inventory, he now is the proud owner of some sticks. And if we equip the axe and then right click again, now he becomes the proud owner of some logs. And then we can take those and actually eventually craft or build workstations that we can use to craft other items. And each unit's going to have their own stats as far as crafting goes. I also added in a unit control. Say you wanted them to auto craft or auto gather. You can actually choose a type and then set that and turn on auto gathering. I've also added a menu for the stats. So you'll see here, you can actually see his stats right now. I haven't added a ticker for the hydration, and his other stats are pretty high, and I still need to make some icons. But you can pop out the window, see your like physical combat stats, and then your regular just generic stats, so your energy, health, and magic points, as well as your survival stats such as hunger and hydration. So let me go ahead and close that and close this. You'll see it's starting to turn dusk, so I better go ahead and hurry. So another feature that I've added, like with this, is the actions, but something really cool that I'm actually pretty happy about. I had an issue where when searching for resources, I was actually essentially sticking all the resources in a list and then searching through all the resources per unit to find the closest one to go and harvest. Obviously that now that I know, that is not the best way to do things. So I made a change. If I enable gizmos again, you'll see this view distance around the unit. And if I move over here, you'll see that if I click a resource that I don't have on a map yet, like ore, and then have him look, it'll grow exponentially. And then once it's grown all the way and tried to look for it, can't find anything, it just stops. And then obviously I can change that back to, let's say food, because there's only this on the map right now. And turn that on, it'll find it and walk straight to it. So that was a big lag reducer there, as well as getting rid of gizmos because they cause a lot of lag. Another thing that I've added, besides the better pathfinding and whatnot, is faster loading. I enabled some new jobs inside my code to help reduce lag in runtime, as well as I added some changes to the renderer to kind of help reduce lag. There's a lot of stuff enabled in there, like anti-aliasing stuff that I don't really need in a pixel art game, so I just removed them, and it ended up boosting my FPS quite a bit. And then the last and final thing is these buttons down here, the system that I'm currently working on. So you'll see if I click enable on that, we have this build mode. We go into that, we can see some stuff we can build already. I haven't made it to where you can actually place the object, but I can show you. You can search and then change what kind of thing you're looking for. It tells you over to the right what it takes. And then if I click on it, we get a grid. I'm thinking about making it to where it goes daytime while the grid's on. But we get a grid and I can place an object. The cool thing is that you can also press R to rotate the item, and that'll allow you to, you know, kind of orientate it in whatever building you end up designing a little bit better. And then I can also change to another object, say like the box, and obviously you press R, it's just rotate to the same exact position because it's the same on all sides. And it also tells you how long it's going to take for your unit to craft it. at a default level. Obviously, there's going to be skills later on that give you, say, your unit like a 50% chance to auto-complete whatever building task they're working on, so you can have units that prioritize better in building or in crafting or in fighting or whatever the job that they choose will be. And I'm going to make it to where maybe they have like a max of 2 jobs that they can become masters in, and everything else kind of is lower level. And so their stats and skills kind of grow better in the jobs that they choose. Other than that, that is about it for this update. For next, or the next task I'm going to be tackling is getting the building mode working, adding in to where you can build walls and objects. Right now I have it to where you can almost place them. I have all the systems in place. I just got to go ahead and kind of work it all together. But other than that, that is it. Let me go ahead and change the day cycle on here so we can go back to daytime. Go ahead and set this to 0. There we go. What's really funny is I can actually change the day duration. I know that I'm getting off task and I should probably wrap this up, but I can change the duration of a day. Right now it's set to 30 minutes for a full day, and obviously if we started out halfway through a day. So I can actually change it. Let me go ahead and pause it though. Pause it and change it to say a day is 1 second. Or 1 minute, I mean. And so now set this to 0, our current time. Oh, you know what? Actually, if I change them dynamically in the code, it actually does not update them. So that is something I'll have to work on then. So we can have days maybe go faster or slower based on events. Anyway, other than that, that is about it. But I look forward to showing you guys more in the next update. Until then, you guys stay awesome, stay safe, and add me on Twitter if you can. Make sure to subscribe and like this video, and I'll see you guys again very soon. Thank you. Bye.